People's Channel.
It's 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 18th of October, live across the United Kingdom. This is Saturday Morning Live.
As Prince Andrew gives up all of his royal titles, including Duke of York, the King says continued allegations against his brother are a distraction from the royal family's work.
Not one or two or three. There are volumes of emails between them. It was a very hectic traffic there.
But as the journalist Bethany Barak suggests, what comes next for Andrew? Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker is in Windsor.
The question is Buckingham Palace trying to get ahead of this story? Are there more damaging allegations to come? For the King, the scandal surrounding his brother had reached a tipping point, and last night he hit the nuke button. More details shortly.
And elsewhere, police say the Home Office were told last week of the highly unusual move that would ban Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from Villa Park in Birmingham. And this morning, UK lawyers for Israel have accused Aston Villa of breaking the law by allowing the match to take place without the fan base. We'll get the latest.
People have died in this war, and we're gonna get it ended.
Well, US President Donald Trump, he's blamed the tremendous bad blood between President Zelensky and Putin for delaying a peace deal.
And fresh reports this week suggest that the government is set to ditch plans for an official definition of Islamophobia for fears it could reintroduce blasphemy laws by the back door.
And Scottish towns have joined in with the Raise the Colours movement, raising saltires on streets and main roads around the country. But one particular road in Glasgow has added another flag into the mix. Tony Maguire is live on the ground.
Yes, off the back of the Raise the Colours movement, a new flag which was designed to promote unity has ended up dividing opinion. Half Saltire, half Palestine flag have appeared around Glasgow, but not everyone is sold on the idea.
The biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next 2 hours. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Charlie Peters. Your weekend starts here.
Well, the revelations about Prince Andrew keep on coming, and we're going to be discussing that interview with a British journalist who has read Virginia Giuffre's book. You'd have thought perhaps things couldn't get any worse for Prince Andrew. He's been stripped of his Duke of York title, but maybe they can. What will the next few weeks have in store? If the King's hoping that he's going to draw a line under it, I'm not sure he has.
No, and those key questions there from Cameron Walker in Windsor, I think, saying, are more revelations to come? Can we expect more extracts from this book? What else have journalists got prepared? Because it seems interesting timing, isn't it? That now is the time that they've decided to remove those titles. This has been dragging on for years.
Well, absolutely. I'm fascinated as well. And Beatrice and Eugenie, the princesses, but the King is fond of his nieces and says that their lives won't be affected, their titles won't change. But isn't it going to be really awkward for them going up to Sandringham for Christmas without their parents? Really, really tricky rift in the royal family. We're going to be discussing that and so much more. And of course, all the way through the show, we want to hear from you. Send your views in, post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/yoursay.
But before we do anything else, let's go across to Aaron Armstrong, who has all your latest news headlines.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you. 3 minutes past 10 here in the GB newsroom. Prince Andrew is giving up all of his royal titles and honours, including the Duke of York, following discussions with the King. Andrew will also relinquish his membership of the Order of the Garter, although he will remain a prince as the son of the late Queen. His ex-wife, Sarah, Duchess of York, will follow suit and will be known simply as Sarah Ferguson. Well, Andrew had already been stripped of several titles as a result of his connections to the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his dealings with China. In a statement, Prince Andrew said continued accusations about him were distracting from the work of the royal family, but he continued to deny any wrongdoing. However, Daphne Barak, a journalist who exposed a series of damaging emails detailing the extent of the couple's relationship with Epstein, says there's more to come.
There were phone calls from the palace to my papers. They wanted to ask if Daphne has more, which we do have more, and you'll see it. And we never say what's coming. When after Fergie, everybody thought, are we going to unearth more Fergie emails. There are, but we actually unearth Andrew. We never say what's coming next. There are things coming next, and not what people think. But I have to tell you, I am sharing with you that there was a volume of emails between them. There were not one or two or three. There were volumes of emails between them. It was a very hectic traffic there, and the relationship was much more tight.
President Trump's indicated he's not prepared to supply Ukraine with long-range weapons to use against Russia. Volodymyr Zelensky was hoping to use yesterday's meeting at the White House to secure US Tomahawk missiles and offered thousands of Ukrainian drones in exchange. However, Trump, who spoke to Vladimir Putin on Thursday, appeared to back away from making a commitment, saying he's confident Russia is ready to end the war.
I think he wants to make a deal, that's all. I can't tell you what's bringing him. Sure, that's the threat of that is good, but the threat of that is always there. They're an amazing weapon. They're a very powerful weapon, but they're a very dangerous weapon, and it could mean big, escalation. It could mean a lot of bad things can happen. Tomahawks are a big deal.
Well, President Zelensky hailed a productive meeting in Washington, but says Tomahawks could force Moscow to the negotiating table.
I think that Russians are afraid about Tomahawks, really afraid, because it's a strong weapon. And they know what we have, what kind of weapon we have, our production. And they understand that combination with Tomahawks, because we speak about it.
Leaving today, are you more or less optimistic that you are going to get those Tomahawks?
I'm realistic.
The Home Office says it expects to hold a meeting next week to address a ban on Israeli football fans attending a game against Aston Villa in November. It wants police to set out the extra resources needed to allow the match to go ahead. Birmingham council officials banned Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters over safety concerns after classifying the game as high risk, citing violence that occurred during a Europa League match between Ajax and Maccabi in Amsterdam last November. A new blood test for more than 50 types of cancer could help speed up diagnosis. That's according to a new study in the US, which has found the Galleri test picks up cancer cases at an early stage when the disease is more treatable and is highly accurate in ruling out cancer in people without the disease. The test, which is also being trialled by the NHS, was able to identify a wide range of cancers, many of which don't have any form of screening programme. The body of an elderly hostage handed over by Hamas on Friday night has been identified. Israel's military says 75-year-old Eliyahu Churchill Margalit was delivered to the Red Cross in southern Gaza before being transferred to Israel. It was the 10th deceased hostage Israel's received out of 28 bodies being held in Gaza amid a dispute over delays in the returns of remains under the ceasefire deal. Earlier this week, Hamas returned the bodies of 9 dead hostages and freed all 20 living captives. Finally, sumo wrestling continues in London this weekend at a sold-out Royal Albert Hall. The Grand Sumo Tournament is being staged outside Japan for just the second time. It's a 5-day event and it concludes on Sunday. The sport's elite continuing to go head-to-head, or perhaps belly-to-belly. Organisers hoping to capitalise on a worldwide surge in interest in Japan's national sport, and they will take it to Paris next year. That's it for the moment. More coming up for you at 10:30.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Aaron, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Charlie Peters and me, Olivia Utley.
Now let's go to our top story, because Prince Andrew has given up all of his royal titles.
It follows a string of scandals, including his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and an alleged Chinese spy.
Now, in an exclusive interview overnight, the chief US correspondent at The Telegraph, Rob Crilly, is one of the few people to have seen Virginia Giuffre's upcoming memoir, described what's next to be revealed.
We're going to have some stories there about the settlement that she came to reach with Prince Andrew and why things were looking so bad for him that he was forced to settle. He wanted to fight on it and clear his name, but actually things were looking so bad it would have dragged members of his family into court for depositions. It was that bad.
Well, Prince Andrew has once again vigorously denied all allegations against him. But journalist Daphne Barak also said that more revelations are set to come.
Andrew and Sarah lost everything because they brought it on themselves. They lied to the public. Why? We never say what's coming. When after Fergie, everybody thought, are we going to unearth more Fergie emails? They are, but we actually unearth Andrew. We never say what's coming next. There are things coming next and not what people think. But I have to tell you, I am sharing with you that there was a volume of emails between them. There were not one or two or three. There were volumes of emails between them. It was a very hectic traffic there. And the relationship was much more tight.
Well, let's speak to our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, who's live from Windsor this morning. Good morning, Cameron. Well, I think you said it just perfectly in your tease at the top of this hour, which is that perhaps there are more revelations to come on this story, and that could have been why the King has drawn a line on this issue now.
Yes, Charlie, and I think Buckingham Palace obviously knew that more was to come. Not only have we got the string of emails set still to be released via US Congress, we also have the publication of Virginia Giuffre's memoir on Tuesday. Of course, she is the lady who took her own life in April, but she alleged that Prince Andrew had sex with her on 3 separate occasions when she was 17 years old. And the King says he's glad that Prince Andrew has decided to no longer use his Duke of York title. The Prince of Wales was consulted. I suspect behind the scenes there was a bit more to it than that. You just had to see the interaction between the Prince of Wales and Prince Andrew at the Duchess of Kent's funeral a couple of weeks ago, where Prince Andrew, in front of a television camera, is desperately trying to strike up a conversation with the heir to the throne, Prince William having absolutely none of it. So if that is happening in front of the cameras, imagine the kind of conversations which were going on behind the scenes inside Buckingham Palace last night. And that is why we got the statement from Prince Andrew saying he's put my duty to my family and my country first, and his Duke of York title is now inactive. But let's be absolutely clear here. Legally, he still has the Duke of York title. The only thing that can remove that is an Act of Parliament, which would require politicians in the House of Commons and the House of Lords to vote through legislation before King Charles gives it royal assent. The other thing, of course, is the Prince title for Andrew. Well, he is still going to have the Prince title because under a letters patent written by George V in 1917, every son of a monarch, in this case Queen Elizabeth II, has a birthright to be prince, and nothing can remove that. Queen Elizabeth II strengthened that in 2012 via another letters patent, and unless there's another Act of Parliament or another letters patent, he's still going to be remaining as a prince. Now, the Royal Lodge question, of course, the big mansion on the Windsor estate, just where I am here, where he still lives, lots of people calling for him to be evicted from that property. That's not possible. The King doesn't have the power to do that because he has a private lease agreement with the Crown Estate, which is an independent property portfolio owned by King Charles technically, but it's in the right of the Crown, but it's independent is the point. He signed a lease until the 2070s, which is well after Prince Andrew's lifetime, which means as long as he can pay the rents and afford the upkeep, he can legally stay there. Now, some people would say, well, the honourable thing would be for him to move out to a smaller cottage. Frogmore Cottage, for example, where Harry and Meghan used to live, has been kind of floated, but Prince Andrew clearly is not budging and isn't staying put. He is also no longer going to be a Knight of the Garter. He has decided to voluntarily give up that right in Windsor Castle behind me. Andrew was kind of left with no choice, to be honest, because if he didn't say he's no longer going to be using them, I suspect the King would have taken pretty drastic action and forced the removal of that title in order to protect the integrity of the monarchy.
Well, thank you very much, Cameron Walker, and I'm sure our viewers will look forward to hearing from you throughout the rest of the day. It's a busy weekend for Cameron up in Windsor. But joining us now is royal constitutional expert and author of Modern Monarchy, Craig Prescott. As Cameron was sort of alluding to there, this is quite symbolic. I mean, yes, he's technically got his title removed, but he's still going to be Prince Andrew. He's still, it seems, going to be living in Royal Lodge in Windsor. Has anything really changed?
Yes, it has changed in that, yes, he still retains the Duke of York title in theory. He still has perhaps other titles in theory, but not using them is significant. And certainly for Prince Andrew himself, he took great stock in the position of being a Knight of the Garter. He very much liked all those aspects. And so this is a very big sort of downfall for him. This is as far as Buckingham Palace can go without, as Cameron was saying, getting Parliament involved. And I think it's interesting to just imagine what happened in that meeting, in that if Andrew hadn't agreed to do this, would the King have taken that step and sort of said, right, OK, if you're not going to play ball, I'm going to get Parliament to remove these titles from you. Buckingham Palace never want to do that because it's taking parliamentary time away from other things that are much more important. And it's sort of legislation is always sort of unpredictable. You don't know what other MPs might do. So this is the best solution for, in a sense, all concerned. Andrew gives up most of his titles. The King doesn't need to get Parliament involved, and Parliament can just keep out of this.
Trying to insulate the monarchy from further damaging revelations seems to be the strategy that's going on here. But is it coming, far too late is the criticism we're seeing from some, because some of the new information that's coming out is hardly more damning than what we've already heard.
Yes, I think that there's an argument for that. I think what the straw that broke the camel's back really was when it was clear and there was proof that some of the things he said in his Newsnight interview came out not to be the full story, that he was in contact with Epstein later than he said.
Well, that happened in 2019.
Well, it did, but it's only come out and been able to be categorically proven with evidence that's come out in America over the past few weeks. And the idea that there might be more stuff like that coming out, that there's, further discussions about his
just to be clear, just on that interview in 2019, he said he'd cut off all contact with Jeffrey Epstein in 2010. A few days later, it was proven that he'd been in contact with him in 2011, saying that we're in it together in one sense. So while more information has been proved more recently, this is part of a long-running issue of him saying one thing and being proved otherwise.
Oh yes, definitely. It's part of that. But I think we've just reached a sort of critical point where, like, he stepped back from royal duties in 2019, but another step needed to be taken. You might have thought that perhaps Prince Andrew could have done all this and just faded from the scene since 2019, and he hasn't done that. He's taken opportunities to be front and centre when they've arisen, and I think, the King and Prince William have decided enough's enough. We have to take this step for the future of the monarchy.
And of course, this sets a precedent, removing the title of the Duke of York. Could we see the King and Prince William perhaps intervene to remove the Duke of Sussex's title or the Duchess of Sussex's title? Is that a possibility now that this watershed has been broken?
It's a theoretical possibility. There are precedents that are shared between Andrew and Harry in terms of HRH status. Was still there, but neither of them used it after 2019 or when Harry moved to North America. Maybe, but I think it's useful for the monarchy because it treats Andrew differently to Harry. That what Harry has done has not been anywhere near as bad. It's sort of
interesting. Perhaps it could end up bringing the King and Harry closer together.
Potentially, and you never know what happens with Harry. In 20 years' time, will he come back? You don't know. So the leaving that door ajar is never a bad thing for the King, and he wants to have a rapprochement with his son. He has cancer, and at his time of life, he will want to have a good relationship with his second son, and removing his title would go entirely against that. So.
Okay. Craig Prescott, thank you very much for your time this morning. Right, well, moving on now, because the government has said it's doing everything in its power to overturn a ban on Israeli fans attending a football match in Birmingham.
Yes, according to the UK Football Policing Unit, the Home Office was told last week of the highly unusual move to ban Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from Villa Park. Police and council officials banned the supporters over safety concerns after the classifying of the game as high risk, citing violence.
Now, that occurred during a Europa League match between Ajax and Maccabi fans in Amsterdam in November. Well, joining us now is the head of football governance at Lane Clark and Peacock, and that's Ariaman Banerjee. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Your legal insight onto this decision, please, because, of course, a lot of blame is being moved around onto who is actually responsible for this decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on, folks. So this decision was made by what we call the Safety Advisory Group. Now, that's a group responsible for the security of matches that take place within England, and it's done on a local level. And it tends to be a combination of local relevant bodies, including the council, public services, other bodies. And they instructed Aston Villa a couple of days ago that the fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv should not be allowed to attend. That's obviously a decision that's been met with very heavy criticism from across the political spectrum. And what we may see now, and as you alluded to in your introduction there, is some sort of government intervention to try and overturn that decision from the Safety Advisory Group, or at least to come to some sort of understanding. Now, that would be quite unusual, but this is quite an unusual situation. I mean, in Britain, we are used to hosting challenging groups of fans, whether that's Legia Warsaw to Lazio. We will, of course, be hosting Euro 2028 in a few years. And I think that's why I think it's quite important that we find some resolution to this and that we have some clarity about who has the power here and whether the government will be able to effectively intervene in situations like this.
Mr. Banerjee, we've heard from UK lawyers for Israel this morning. They've accused Aston Villa of breaking the law by allowing this match to take place without those fans in attendance. Their chief executive said that under the Equality Act, there's no get-out clause for discrimination on safety grounds. And if they're banned, then Villa fans should also be banned and the match played behind closed doors. Now, we understand that Villa would say that, you know, the decision's been taken out of their hands. As you say, it's the Safety Advisory Group. But this challenge from UK lawyers for Israel, what do you make of that?
Yeah, well, I think it's a very interesting state of legal affairs. And what I will say is there is some precedent in other jurisdictions for fans being banned on grounds of safety. We've seen that, for example, with Ajax fans, with fans of Eintracht Frankfurt. But the difference, I think, there is that tends to be because of an amalgamation of poor behavior. Certainly, I'm not sure that this argument focusing specifically on the match in Amsterdam about 12 months ago now is a particularly strong argument to put forward this response of banning the Israeli fans from this match in its entirety. So I'd be very interested to see where that challenge goes and how it plays in respect, in particular, to the decisions that have been made in other jurisdictions when fans have been banned over there.
Of course, there are, established ways, which you've mentioned before, of keeping rival groups of football fans apart. This is not the first time this has been an issue. So some people are suggesting that this is actually a pretty political decision. What do you say to that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's a very credible sort of argument. I mean, one of the resolutions, I believe, would be to have some sort of special safety enforcement, because we are only expecting about 1,000 Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. On the political point, it seems unusual to me that, as I've mentioned before, it is the fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv being sort of singled out when we're used to dealing with challenging groups of fans. What I can say, though, is whether that decision's been taken in a political context, what we see, perhaps quite unusually, is that it is a decision that has now been condemned across the political spectrum. Reform, the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrats, and of course the government uniting in their condemnation of it. The government, as you alluded to, are saying that they're doing everything that they can. And that's a curious statement for me because, as you mentioned in the introduction, they were told about this decision or the potential for this decision a week ago. So what's quite got them out of bed now to try and allow it is curious. But I'll be very interested to see the reaction, particularly not just of the government but of other parties as this goes forward. Government's approach.
Ariman, what could have changed? I think perhaps the reaction to the decision is what perhaps has prompted the government now saying they're going to do everything they can. Well, thank you for joining us this morning, and still to come on Saturday Morning Live. The reports this week that the government is set to ditch its proposed legislation on Islamophobia for fears that it could see blasphemy laws through the back door. We'll get the latest on that story.
But next, a neurologist has warned that extra exam time for students with ADHD could be unhelpful for the child later in life. That and much more in today's top stories next. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I was very lucky enough to be at the station today to welcome it in, be part of the group welcoming it into the station it's about 1:15 this morning. So I'm back down in London again now. It's been a busy old day, but yeah, I've been on that train previously on the main line. We took it out for a test run a couple of weeks ago, and we were in those wagons under moonlight. So this little engine pulled us along a branch line. And under test, but this incredible replica train, a complete train, genuinely is a direct link with the past and lets us understand a little bit what it was like to have technology like this at the time, and then showcase this phenomenal little machine and this train, these vehicles, how we can solve problems today, actually, and how far we've come, and shows the heritage of Britain's genuinely incredible railway network.
It is a pretty little train, actually, isn't it? And if you say that it can help you solve problems today, in what way? I mean, this compared with that machine it is next to, it's incredibly primitive. So what can we learn from this little thing?
Well, I think the same problems extend today as today, right? That we need to move people and things from A to B. And what's so lovely about seeing a machine like this, locomotion number 1 replica, of course, is that it genuinely shows us how someone thought, I've got a problem. How do I move coal and people from up there to over there? And actually the answer was railways. And so often today, the most efficient way of moving people around still in railways.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We love this country, and now it's time to celebrate it together. Now we need you to help decide which pictures will feature in our very first GB News charity calendar.
Yes, after an incredible response to our call for photos, we received some truly stunning submissions from across the United Kingdom, and every penny of profit will go to the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children, which has been bringing joy to disadvantaged and special needs children since 1928.
So have your say and help us choose the images that best capture the spirit of Britain. To vote, simply follow the QR code on screen. Thanks for taking part.
Right, let's go through some of the top stories today, because we're very happy to be joined by journalist at the Daily Mail, Lettice Bromovsky, and the former Labour advisor, Scarlett Maguire. Good morning to you both. How are we?
Good morning. Good morning. Very well, thank you.
Super. Yourself?
Well, we have a knee problem, but apart from that...
But you're sitting down.
I'm sitting down.
We're all in red and orange. Charlie missed the memo. Need an orange
It's disappointing, really.
Yeah.
If someone had worn, I don't think an orange tie. I sound like I work for DUP. I'm not looking to apply to a DUP
New job?
role. No, it'd be a bit outlandish, wouldn't it? Right, speaking of outlandish things, let's go to the Mail. Page 2, please, Lettice, because China is creating fake job adverts to lure Britons into spying. What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is quite a fascinating story because China has been so much in the news at the moment. But what this story is saying is apparently about 20,000 civil servants have been approached via LinkedIn, websites like that, for new jobs, which are essentially offering very high prices, around about £2,000 for a single report, for what they call insight reports. I think, first of all, if our civil servants are falling for these things and will be giving these reports away, that's a whole different issue in itself. I think this also just speaks to a lot about how China is reaching into the UK at the moment and where we're going to draw the line on whether they are classed as a threat to us. We've had MI5 come out in this past week saying that they are a big threat and they've been foiling plots essentially from China.
As recently as last week? As
recently as last week, and probably weekly, the amount that we don't know about. And so this is just adding to the sort of fear that perhaps we are under threat.
Exactly. I mean, it's fuel for the fire, isn't it? Surely we all know that China is a threat to the UK. Isn't it time that it was designated a threat? Or are politicians just too scared because our economic relationship with China is too important?
Our economic relationship with China is important. I mean, we can't pretend it's the second largest economy in the world. And while we have the American economy that doesn't always seem to be our friend and threatens to put tariffs here and tariffs there, one has to keep friends with China. I mean, even Trump keeps friends with China because Amazon takes so much stuff from them. So actually, the way this government does about challenging and cooperating is right. But I mean, frankly, we did this with Russia. I mean, it was this sort of it's not even double standards, it's two ways of dealing with things. I mean, look, my dad was a spy in Russia, right? Everybody knew he was. We lived there. We lived there. The Russians would take him out and get him drunk. But we all knew it. Great spy. He had 3 tiny children. Our flat was bugged the whole time. But what I'm saying is there is a protocol about these things, so everybody knows. The problem is as Lettice says, is when innocent civil servants think, oh yeah, I can make £2,000 saying,
yeah. But
and they go into
I mean, surely no one's actually that thick. Maybe they are.
No, people always fall for this stuff.
But
That's why they do it.
It goes to also other points. Obviously, trade is important, but there are other things like TikTok, that are very much prevalent in all younger generations' lives. I mean, even MPs at the moment can't have TikTok on their government phone because there was a fear or concern that the cameras were being used to spy from China because it is part owned by a Chinese company. So this is known, like you're saying. It isn't a secret that it is a threat. It's just about which government is going to come along and stand up to it.
Well, exactly. Live in this sort of fiction where China isn't a threat. We all know it is, but I need to keep that relationship going.
Scarlett, I was almost moved by you describing that. There's a protocol for these things. There's rules with spying. And isn't the problem with China is perhaps it's more a bit like 10% cloak, 90% dagger. And they're not really perhaps playing by those rules that your old man was operating in back in the day when there was a time when spies would sit out for a meal, they'd watch their handlers in the corner of the Moscow restaurant and say, we're getting the check, you want to get ready to leave as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the real danger for the Chinese is actually the people from Hong Kong. Right. I think that we can laugh about the civil servants, we can laugh about but these people who've come over from Hong Kong, I mean, actually, the Chinese are really, really dangerous. And it's like the Soviet Union before it fell. I remember I was working at the World Service when the Bulgarian was killed. I mean, actually, what happens, and the Russians still do it, as we know, is that's the really dangerous. That's where the rest of the time it's about intelligence and everybody's working. I really, really worry about these people who've come over from Hong Kong and the students who think that, Britain's a free country, so you can say what you want, and then we say, well, you have to go back.
Yes, when you get home, things are a bit difficult for you. Should we move on to something else? I think, Olivia, you're quite interested in this, aren't you?
I am. Babies born today will never be as smart as artificial intelligence, says the boss behind ChatGPT. I mean, we all know that, really. Of course they're not going to be as smart. Does it matter, though? What will the jobs look like for babies born today?
Look, I guess that is the point. I would say people nowadays, there are probably people who aren't as smart as the AI is.
I don't think I am.
But, I know. People use it in everything they do at the moment, and probably people lie often about how often they truly are using it. I think, really, with AI, it's going to have to be something we take in our stride. We are going to have to change and form around a new world that now has that involved, and hopefully jobs and education and how how we learn will just form around that as well. But yeah, this isn't that surprising.
Nice. Maybe the babies of today will be pottering around at leisure, doing their gardens while computers are doing all the.
Maybe they won't have to do any work at all.
That was supposed to happen years ago, and actually leisure hasn't happened.
Yeah, the invention of the washing machine.
Yes, absolutely. Well, yes, I sometimes think about how women work, you know, housewives manage before the washing machine, whereas you can just throw it out. But actually, what's interesting about this story is Sam Altman, who runs ChatGPT, who, like you, has had a baby this year, says that his baby will not be as bright as they are. And of course, Lettice is right. There's masses and masses of people in this country, in this world, who's nowhere near as bright as ours. But what he says is he doesn't think it will affect his happiness. And actually, this whole thing about are we intelligent enough, actually, I mean, you were right. What we want is we want a happy country and a happy world. And that's what we should be going for, rather than, you know, this whole push to try as intelligent as ChatGPT.
OK, QT, thank you very much for your time this morning. We'll see you later in the next hour as we discuss more attempts to build a happy world.
Cheerful. Well, thank you. Still to come, reports overnight that the government is set to ditch proposed legislation on Islamophobia for fears it will see blasphemy laws back by the back door. We'll get the latest on that story.
Right, but first, let's get your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good morning to you, 25 minutes to 11. Our top stories. Prince Andrew has relinquished all his royal titles, including the Duke of York, as a result of a series of scandals over his friendship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and over his links to China. It comes days before the publication of a posthumous memoir by Virginia Giuffre, Epstein's most publicised victim. Donald Trump's downplayed suggestions he'll supply Ukraine with long-range US missiles to strike Russia after meeting Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House. The US president instead spoke about brokering a peace deal with Vladimir Putin, with a new summit scheduled to take place in Hungary. The Home Office says it expects to hold a meeting next week to address a ban on Israeli football fans attending a game against Aston Villa in November. Birmingham Council officials banned Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters over safety concerns after classifying the game as high risk. Israel's confirmed that the latest remains handed over by Hamas to the Red Cross on Friday night are those of 75-year-old Eliyahu Margalit. He is the 10th dead hostage to be returned from Gaza. The remains of 18 people have yet to be repatriated. And China's threatened the UK with consequences over further delays to its proposed mega embassy in London. A decision's been pushed back until December, further complicating diplomatic relations following the alleged Chinese spying case. You're up to date with the headlines. I'll be back with more at 11.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Already you can just see it buzzing. The New Zealand-France game is going on, the bronze final in the stadium at the moment, and there's about 45,000 people already in the stadium watching it. So the energy in this place is unbelievable, and the excitement, because this game is a real game of jeopardy, the final between England and Canada.
And you've got caps galore, you've been involved in coaching men and women's rugby. So, and you won in 1994. What's it like to be a winner?
Well, this is the shirt that I wore back
Oh,
in
wow.
back in the day in 1994. This is my World Cup winning shirt, so I'm hoping it's going to
brilliant.
bring a bit of luck to the girls. But it was an incredibly special time. But for me to see how the game has changed, we had 6,000 people watch us win that World Cup, and now women's sport in this country, it's our Lionesses, the Red Roses, the Cricket World Cup is the tickets are on sale for that next year, and people are choosing to watch women's sport and really, really enjoying the event. So it's fantastic, and the change over that 30-year span is quite remarkable.
What do you think has made the difference? Why is it becoming, I mean, as you say, football is the same. Why is it becoming more acceptable now? And not just for women and girls to follow the sport as well, but I mean, I go to West Ham regularly for my sins, but so many men are now starting to pay a little bit of attention without being too sneery.
Well, absolutely, but I think the biggest thing is the quality of the product. Because the girls have been given contracts and are now able to train, not have to go to work and then leave a full day's work and come training and then do almost a second job in order to deliver on the skills. Both the Lionesses, the Roses, everybody now at the top end of the game is being financially rewarded for it, so they can actually concentrate on their sport.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Back to Saturday Morning Live, and fresh
I'm not gonna go
reports
on.
this week suggest that the government is set to ditch plans for an official definition of Islamophobia because an investigation in The National has revealed that some senior government officials, including ministers, now believe that the legislation could risk reintroducing blasphemy laws.
Well, we're joined now by the founder of Faith Matters and Tell Mama, Fayez Mughal. Now, Fayez, I mean, surely there is a very real risk that if you bring in this definition of Islamophobia, then it will be pretty much impossible for anyone to have any sort of legitimate criticism of Islam.
Well, first of all, morning, and thank you very much, Olivia. Absolutely. There was a real risk that basically this was a backdoor towards blasphemy, because what it was trying to do was trying to shut down discussion around and not just elements of Islam, but also elements around the faith itself. And I think that's been a real issue and a real problem to be looked at. And so I think you're absolutely right that this has been an issue that was trying to basically drag up a form of a blasphemy law.
And Fayez, when we look at some of the reporting coming out of The National this week, what they're saying that basically the new Communities Minister, Steve Reid, is backtracking on this, and he seems to have support from Number 10, in particular from Sir Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff. What do you think has led to the political turn on this?
Well, I think, first of all, Labour have realised that this is a potential problem for them electorally. I think there's also a realisation that actually it may cause division within communities. And I think there's also a realisation that actually it may lead to more charges being made against Labour, that they're trying to curtail free speech. So they've finally realised this is not the way to go ahead. And I'm very grateful that they are reconsidering this position.
Is there a risk of division in Parliament, though? I mean, there are now quite a few independent MPs, the Gaza MPs, as they're called. One would have thought that they would want this definition of Islamophobia to go through. Could there be a row within the Labour Party, perhaps? There's a movement rising up on the left of the Labour Party. What's going to happen for Labour if they backtrack on this?
Definitely there'll be a split within the Labour Party, and there are those sections who really want to see this definition go through. There are others who are lobbying. Even The National reported that some of the independent MPs are now trying to mobilise against this definition rather to see it come through. So we need to be very vigilant in relation to this kind of mobilisation that may be taking place. Let me go back to this issue of the split within the Labour Party. It was clear that Angela Rayner was okay with such a definition going through. Steve Reid is not. And I think that there is going to be a split. I think it's really important that we keep mobilising against this definition, because it will essentially criminalise a whole range of people. And, you know, we don't need more criminalisation in our country. The laws are sufficient enough. But I just want to add that actually it is important we continue to mobilise. It is important we continue to campaign against it and to challenge the government that free speech and the right to challenge and criticise faith is a fundamental aspect of our society.
OK, Fiaz Magal, thank you very much for your time this morning. And let's go now and speak to political commentator Eve McQuillan. Eve, thank you very much for your time this morning. Now, obviously, we've just heard Fiaz talking about the split in Labour on this, but of course, two Conservatives are involved in the production of this report, this definition as well, Baroness Fawzi, and also you've got the former Attorney General as well involved. What do you make of their involvement at this stage?
So I think this has come about through a very genuine attempt to do more to tackle anti-Muslim hatred in Britain. But I do accept what Fiaz was saying about it introducing blasphemy laws through the back door. The point is, I guess the danger is that we get into a situation where we're having rows within the Labour Party and within Parliament that certain people care about anti-Muslim hatred and certain people don't care about anti-Muslim hatred. And I think what is really important is to ensure that protections for individuals against hatred and abuse and racist harassment, etc., remain in place and remain strongly enforced, and that this doesn't become a row about actually some people don't care about anti-Muslim hatred because the far right is rising. That would be a really dangerous position for us to get into as a country. And I think it's incumbent on politicians to have this conversation now sensibly and in good faith.
Well, Eve, as you say, important to have the conversation sensibly in good faith. It doesn't really feel as though that's particularly likely to happen, particularly with Zach Polansky on the rise as Green leader. The Greens are becoming increasingly popular. They are very much trying to present themselves as the party who cares about Islamophobia. Zach Polansky has suggested there are some Labour MPs who are talking about defecting to the Greens. Do you think this could actually cause a rupture within Labour?
I don't think it will go so far to cause a rupture in Labour, but I think for some Labour MPs who feel that Labour is cozying up too much to reform, then it will feel like this is the Labour Party moving against some of their moral principles that they stand on, anti-discrimination principles. And so that's why it's important for the Labour Party collectively not to let that happen.
And Eve, we know about this potential sort of U-turn on this definition because of reporting from people inside, supposedly, those meetings. Now, you say you want politicians to have this debate sort of in good faith, but perhaps they should also be having it in public, that a lot of politicking about this very controversial issue is happening behind closed doors, but not enough debate, perhaps, is being had with the public on this problem.
I think it's sensible for the government to set up a working committee that can listen to people who know a lot about this subject and make rational decisions and then present those decisions to the public and then have that public discussion. So I don't think there's anything that bad about the process so far. It's about how we go forward now that where's my concern lies.
And how does this affect, Jeremy Corbyn, Zara Sultana, all of these little movements on the left that are starting up? Could they get public votes for this as well as sort of building up their own parties?
I think it depends how people feel. And if people feel like they're not being protected adequately by the Labour Party and the government of the day, they are going to look elsewhere. We are seeing attacks against Muslim people rising in this country. That's shameful. And people are going to want to see that the government is on their side and is going to protect them from those issues.
OK, Eve McQuillan, political commentator, thank you for your time on Saturday Morning Live. Still to come, we'll be joined by Tony Maguire. He's live in Glasgow, where the Raising the Colours movement has reached Scotland with some interesting results.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
The best place to be across the Mediterranean at the moment is Italy. A lot of fine weather following some wet conditions earlier in the week. That wet weather now moving into Greece, and another spell of rain on the way for parts of Portugal, northwest Spain as well. A damp spell here, but with southwesterly winds, temperatures actually above average. And then this gap in systems through the central part of the Mediterranean. Plenty of sunshine through Italy. Rain clouds clearing into Greece. Very wet indeed for Athens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel. Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Now, Scottish towns have joined in with the Raising the Colours movement, raising saltires on streets and main roads around the country. To counter that, Victoria Road in the south side of Glasgow has adapted a half Palestine and half saltire on all the street lamps.
Right, well, there's only one man we can speak to for all the latest on this, and it is Tony Maguire. He's live for us in Glasgow. Tony, what is going on here?
Yeah, good morning. Well, this is quite a change in direction for the Raise the Colours movement. Really, around the start of October, we started seeing these half Palestine, half Scotland flags going up in the lampposts, not just here in Victoria Road in the south side of Glasgow, but also over in the West End around the University of Glasgow campus. Now, the group responsible, United in Resistance, they're kind of a new breakout group. They're the ones who have put up these flags of freedom, as they're called, but they've got the backing of kind of more established groups such as the Gaza Genocide Emergency Committee and Palestine Solidarity Campaign here in Scotland. Now, certainly, you know, although that they're supposed to be a show of solidarity, they've ended up dividing opinion here. Now, talking to people on the street over the last couple of days, not everybody is a fan. There are certainly people here who love these flags and they love kind of this sort of twist on the Raise the Colours movement, but you know, there are others who kind of feel a bit affronted at the fact that their national flag, which is more than 700 years old at this point, has been sort of cajoled in with the Palestine flag. Now, the thing is that when we also got in on the Raise the Colours movement, you know, which has been going on for a couple of months now, and the saltires that went up around Scotland, well, almost immediately we saw people to the left of centre accusing those raising the flags of being a far right or of being kind of affronting to immigration. But actually, the original organisers, the plan was to remove them from being associated with the independence movement, because for the last 20 years, every pro-independence Independence March has been absolutely glittered with satires, and they wanted a change of pace for that, and they saw the Raise the Colours movement as being a bit of a change of scene for it. Now, certainly here in the south side of Glasgow, it's got mixed opinions, but it'll be curious to see after this such a hard a hard-fought peace was won. It seems that this kind of proxy culture war around flags is just getting started.
All right, Tony Maguire, thank you very much for bringing us that update. I have to say, perhaps these are two rather different independence movements joining forces. Let's just hope that those in Scotland don't take too much inspiration from the Palestinian side.
Well, we've got lots more to come on Saturday Morning Live today, including more of today's top stories, the latest on Prince Andrew and President Trump's meeting with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky last night.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. The Zelensky meeting, he just keeps getting in these rows with President Donald Trump, doesn't he? But perhaps they're one step closer to getting a deal. Don't go anywhere. See you just after the break.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office, where we've got a change of type. Some brightness today, but otherwise low pressure is arriving to bring a wet and windy day on Sunday. So this area of high pressure that's stuck around through much of the week and last week will soon be replaced by low pressure out to the west. But through the rest of this morning and more so this afternoon, there will be a lot of cloud around, but that's generally a little bit higher than recent days. So hopefully seeing some brightness. For most of us, it's largely dry, but cloud and rain will approach from the west, affecting Northern Ireland and the far southwest of Devon and Cornwall later on. Otherwise, temperatures around average for the time of year, and any brightness feeling pleasant, especially across parts of Scotland. So as we end Saturday evening then, there will be some early evening sunshine for the far north of Scotland, still holding on to a few showers across Shetland, but otherwise a damp end to the day across Northern Ireland with some stronger winds coming through as well. Outbreaks of rain here, a damp end across parts of Western Wales and the far southwest of England, but holding on to a lot of cloud, especially to the south and east. So as we go through this evening and overnight, bands of rain will continue to push in from the west. There is a Met Office warning in force for rain across the southeast of Scotland, so especially over the Mourne Mountains. That's where rainfall totals will start building, but even across far south of Devon and Cornwall. Otherwise, with a lot of cloud around, a brisker wind as well, it's going to be mild out there. Temperatures up to around 10 or 11 to start Sunday morning. So as we start Sunday morning then, again, further spells of heavy rain continuing across Northern Ireland into much of England. So by lunchtime, most of us will see an unsettled end to the weekend, but some brightness coming into Devon and Cornwall and Northern Ireland, but brisker winds, temperatures around 15 to 16 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry to become a winner. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 18th of October, live across the United Kingdom. This is Saturday Morning Live.
As Prince Andrew gives up all of his royal titles, including Duke of York, the King says continued allegations against his brother are a distraction from the royal family's work. Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker is in Windsor.
The question is, has Buckingham Palace tried to get ahead of this story? Are there more damaging allegations to come? For the King, his brother, the allegations surrounding his brother have reached a tipping point, and last night he hit the nuke button. More details shortly.
Well, elsewhere, police say the Home Office were told last week of the highly unusual move that would ban Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from Villa Park in Birmingham. This morning, UK lawyers for Israel have accused Villa of breaking the law by allowing the match to take place with that fan ban. We'll have all the latest.
People have died in this war, and we're gonna get it ended.
US President Donald Trump blames tremendous bad blood between President Zelensky and Putin for delaying a peace deal.
And Scottish towns have joined in with the Raising the Colours movement, raising saltires on streets and main roads across the country. But one particular road in Glasgow has added another flag into the mix, and Tony Maguire is live on the ground.
Yes, well, an interesting twist to the Raise the Colours movement. A flag that was supposed to promote unity has ended up dividing opinion. Not everyone is sold in the idea of half Palestine, half Scottish flag.
Biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next hour. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Charlie Peters, and your weekend starts here. Never looked at the saltire, the Scottish saltire, and thought, you know what that needs? That needs a Palestinian edition. It is a very strange movement, isn't it?
Yeah, I know this isn't the thing that matters the most, but aesthetically, I don't think bashing up flags is a particularly good look. I think the same about the LGBTQIA, etc. So many colours, so many patterns. It's kind of not the point of a flag.
No, it's a bit jarring, isn't it? I mean, there was that issue, wasn't there, with they did the zebra crossings in trans colours in one town, and the horses got scared by them, which is very interesting. I wonder what the horses think of the saltire with the Palestinian flag.
Well, I hope Tony Maguire will tell us up in Scotland. And also in the show, we're going to be talking about perhaps maybe more important matters. Is Donald Trump going to end the war in Ukraine and Russia? He certainly hopes he can. Zelensky saying he should seize the moment, but it still feels like there's rather a lot of hurdles when the two presidents won't even meet each other. That's Zelensky and Putin.
Yeah, Zelensky doesn't seem to get on well with the man. They seem to have a strange, frosty relationship. In the last hour, we heard from one of our paper review panellists, Scarlett Maguire, that her old man was a spy. So perhaps Scarlett can give us some more diplomatic and espionage tactics and techniques that Zelensky could adopt.
She just dropped that line.
Wonderful, wasn't it? You're going to want to hang around to hear more about their Moscow tales. But please do get in touch, send your views, post your comments. You know the drill by now. It's gbnews.com/your say.
But before we do anything else, Aaron Armstrong has all your latest news headlines.
Thanks very much. Good morning to you. 3 minutes past 11. Our headlines. The family of Virginia Giuffre says she's been vindicated with the stripping of Prince Andrew's titles. Prince Andrew's giving up all of his honours, including the Duke of York, after discussions with the King. He will also relinquish his membership of the Order of the Garter, although will remain a prince. His ex-wife, Sarah, the Duchess of York, will follow suit and be known simply as Sarah Ferguson. Andrew had already been stripped of several titles as a result of his connections to the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his dealings with China. In a statement, Prince Andrew said continued accusations about him were distracting from the work of the royal family, but that he continued to deny any wrongdoing. However, royal biographer Tom Bauer says it's unlikely to draw a line under the saga.
Of course, it's not the end of the saga or the scandal, because both of them have an absolute penchant. They love appearing in the spotlight, and they can't resist appearing in public. So although they might disappear for a few days, few weeks, even a couple of months, they are going to reappear. And I think this is where the King has a major problem, as does the Prince of Wales. What do they do with this terrible couple?
President Trump has indicated he's not prepared to supply Ukraine with long-range weapons to use against Russia. Volodymyr Zelensky was hoping to use yesterday's meeting at the White House to secure Tomahawk missiles and offered thousands of Ukrainian drones in exchange. Although Trump, who spoke to Vladimir Putin on Thursday, appeared to back away from making a commitment, saying he's confident Russia is ready to end the war.
I think he wants to make a deal, that's all. I can't tell you what's bringing him. Sure, that's the threat of that is good, but the threat of that is always there. They're an amazing weapon. They're a very powerful weapon, but they're a very dangerous weapon, and it could mean big, escalation. It could mean a lot of bad things can happen. Tomahawks are a big deal.
President Zelensky, though, says Tomahawk missiles could force Moscow to the negotiating table.
I think that Russians afraid about Tomahawks, really afraid, because it's a strong weapon. And they know what we have, what kind of weapon we have, our production. And they understand that combination with Tomahawks, because we speak about it.
Leaving today, are you more or less optimistic that you are going to get those Tomahawks?
I'm realistic.
That's not it.
The body of an elderly hostage handed over by Hamas on Friday night has been identified. Israel's military says 75-year-old Eliyahu Churchill Margalit was delivered to the Red Cross in southern Gaza before being transferred to Israel. It was the 10th deceased hostage Israel's received out of 28 bodies held in Gaza amid a dispute over delays in the return of remains under the ceasefire deal. Earlier this week, Hamas returned the bodies of 9 dead hostages held in Gaza and freed all 20 living captives. The Home Office says it expects to hold a meeting next week to address a ban on Israeli football fans attending a game against Aston Villa in November. It wants police to set out the extra resources needed to allow it to go ahead. Birmingham Council officials banned Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters over safety concerns after classifying the game as high risk. They cited violence that occurred during a Europa League match between Ajax and Maccabi in Amsterdam last November. A new blood test for more than 50 types of cancer could help upspeed diagnosis of the disease. That's according to a new study in the US, which has found the Galleri test picks up cancer cases in an early stage when the disease is more treatable and is highly accurate in ruling out cancer in people without the disease. The test, which is being trialled by the NHS, was able to identify a wide range of cancers, many of which do not have any form of screening programme. China has threatened the UK with consequences over delays to its proposed mega embassy in London. Beijing's expressed grave concern and strong dissatisfaction with a planning decision that's been pushed back for a second time until December. It further complicates attempts by the Prime Minister to reset relations with China, which have been damaged by a row over alleged Chinese espionage in the UK. And sumo wrestling continues in London this weekend at a sold-out Royal Albert Hall. The Grand Sumo Tournament is being staged outside Japan for just the second time. The 5-day event will conclude tomorrow as the sports elite continue to go head-to-head. Organisers hoping to capitalise on a worldwide surge in interest in Japan's national sport, and they plan to take it to Paris next year. And those are the headlines. I'll be back with more at 11:30.
Thank you, Aaron, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Charlie Peters and me, Olivia Utley.
Now let's go to our top story, because Prince Andrew has given up all of his royal titles. It follows a string of scandals, including his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and an alleged Chinese spy.
In an exclusive interview overnight, chief US correspondent at The Telegraph, Rob Crilly, one of the first people to have seen Virginia Giuffre's upcoming memoir, described what's next to be revealed.
We're going to have some stories there about the settlement that she came to reach with Prince Andrew and why things were looking so bad for him that he was forced to settle. He wanted to fight on it and clear his name, but actually things were looking so bad. It would have dragged members of his family into court for depositions. It was that bad.
Well, Prince Andrew has once again vigorously denied all allegations against him. Journalist Daphne Barak has also said that more revelations are set to come.
Andrew and Sarah lost everything because they brought it on themselves. They lied to the public. Why? We never say what's coming. When after Fergie, everybody thought, are we going to unearth more Fergie emails? They are, but we actually unearth Andrew. We never say what's coming next. There are things coming next and not what people think. But I have to tell you, I am sharing with you that there was a volume of emails between them. There were not one or two or three. There were volumes of emails between them. It was a very hectic traffic there. And the relationship was much more tight.
Well, let's speak to GB News' royal correspondent Cameron Walker, live from Windsor. Good morning, Cameron. Obviously, the King is hoping that this is the end of the story, that he's managed to draw a line under it. But with the memoir coming out soon, it feels like this might actually just be the beginning of the road. What do you think?
Yeah, Olivia, I think this is certainly Buckingham Palace trying to get ahead of the story. I think it's been pretty telling over the last week that there have been a number of scandals associated with Prince Andrew. First, of course, his association with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, with the email leaks keep coming from US Congress. Then, of course, we have Virginia Giuffre's memoir coming out on Tuesday. The lady who took her own life in April but had previously accused Prince Andrew on 3 separate occasions of having sex with her when she was 17 years old. That's an allegation Prince Andrew who's always denied. But then on top of that, we've got this Chinese spy scandal with Prince Andrew. It's been revealed met a very senior official in the Chinese Communist Party who's at the centre of the current Chinese spy scandal here in Britain. And it appears there could be more revelations in the book being published on Tuesday. So that is why perhaps we had the statement from Prince Andrew yesterday saying, I put my duty to my family and country first, and he is no longer going to be using his Duke of York title. Now, let's be absolutely clear here. He's no longer using the Duke of York title. In other words, it's inactive. But legally, he still has that title, because the only thing that can get rid of that title for Prince Andrew is an Act of Parliament. So politicians in the House of Commons and the House of Lords voting on legislation before it can be given royal assent by the King. That hasn't happened, so it's just inactive. Very similar to, of course, Prince Andrew no longer being a Knight of the Garter. He has chosen not to be a Knight of the Garter anymore, rather than the King having to formally remove it on his behalf. Now, the King is glad of this outcome, I understand. The Prince of Wales, I'm told, was consulted. But reading between the lines here, I think there was a bit more to it than that. I think there perhaps was a lot of pushing from the King and the heir to the throne to make Prince Andrew come to this decision. You just had to see the interaction between Prince Andrew and Prince William a couple of weeks ago outside the funeral of the Duchess of Kent at Westminster Cathedral, where it was pretty clear that Prince Andrew was trying to strike up a conversation with Prince William, future King, in front of the cameras. Prince William having absolutely none of it. And if that was happening in front of the cameras, imagine the kind of conversations that they were having behind closed doors. But a question that I'm being asked a lot this morning is Prince Andrew still a prince? And the answer to that question is yes, he is, and all down to a letters patent written in 1917 by King George V, which states that any son of a monarch can retain the prince title. It is his birthright, and that is why there is no legal mechanism as things stand to remove the prince title from the from Prince Andrew, even though the British public, 67% of the British public, according to the latest YouGov poll, want that to happen. And he can stay in Royal Lodge in his mansion in the Windsor Great Park behind me, because he's got a private lease tenancy agreement with that lasting until the 2070s. The King has no power to force an eviction.
OK, Karen Walker, live in Windsor, thank you very much. And you've all been getting in touch on your say about this. Caroline and Ken both saying, please stop with Prince Andrew, and Ken saying anything else happening in the world. I would say to those of you sort of perhaps frustrated by this story, what we're hearing from Virginia Giuffre in her book, in this memoir, talking about a motive perhaps for the murder of Jeffrey Epstein in his prison cell. A lot more conversations to come on this, I think, and watch this space with these more revelations to come, I'd say.
Well, absolutely. But moving on now, the government says it's doing everything in its power to overturn a ban on Israeli fans from attending a football match in Birmingham.
According to the UK Football Policing Unit, the Home Office was told last week of the highly unusual move to ban Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from Villa, but police and council officials banned the supporters over safety concerns when they classified the game as high risk.
That occurred during a Europa League match between Ajax and Maccabi in Amsterdam in November. Joining us now is crossbench peer and former Labour MP Lord Wolney. Now, do you think it's right that the government is weighing in now? And if so, why did they not weigh in earlier? Shabana Mahmood knew about this last week.
Well, it is good that they are taking a stand, and it's going to be important that whatever the precise mechanism is, that the key thing is that the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans are allowed to go and watch the match. And we do not have this appalling situation where the UK's second largest city has been effectively designated a no-go area for travelling Jewish people. That is a deep stain in our country, but it would be at any time, but particularly in the aftermath of the appalling Manchester synagogue murders, and a time when British Jews feel like they have not been given sufficient protection and have now been promised by the Prime Minister again, and the irony of him making that promise again on the day that subsequently this terrible decision was reached will not have been lost on anyone in government, and they know that they need to prevail on the situation now to make sure that these fans can come.
Lord Wolney, we've seen some people trying to defend the decision, pointing to that violence in Amsterdam, saying that actually the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were to blame on that occasion. Now, it seems to me to be a remarkable rewriting of history. Actually, what happened in Amsterdam is you saw sort of a pogrom being unleashed on those fans, and there was preparation weeks in advance before they turned up for that fixture versus Ajax. Do you think that those fans have been correctly branded as being a violent risk, or are people actually, as I think, sort of rewriting history there?
Yeah, there is a systematic bad faith attempt to twist this situation, as I'm afraid to say that there is in so much discourse around Israel and Jewish people at the moment, and the people who are trying to suggest that actually the heart of the problem is the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans themselves should be deeply ashamed of themselves, because anything more than a cursory glance at a few pictures online, it does show that this wasn't an organised attempt in the Ajax match of a subset of extremists within that city, within Amsterdam, organising an attempt to effectively hunt down and attack the Jewish supporters. And yes, there were some troubling scenes within that from a section of the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans themselves, but police officers for decades now have been well versed in being able to put on football matches and take appropriate steps to protect the wider community and the fans that are arriving. And this match should have been treated no differently to that. And I think the police and in particular those politicians, those local MPs who have driven their deep-rooted hatred of Israel into this forum and have twisted this result should face really significant scrutiny for what they've done now.
Well, thank you very much, Lord Walney, and it is quite scary, isn't it? It feels like sectarianism is on the rise in the UK.
Yeah, and I'd say, I mean, lots of people saying, oh, this isn't the Birmingham I know. Well, that says a lot more about you, perhaps, than it does about Birmingham, because actually this is Birmingham. This is happening.
And of course, Shabab Mahmood's constituency is the neighbouring one in Birmingham itself, so let's see where the Home Secretary comes down on all of this. But still to come, President Trump hosted Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House last night.
So many people have died in this war, and we're gonna get it ended.
But will the talks really help to end the war? And next, a neurologist has warned that extra exam time for students with ADHD could be unhelpful for the child later in life. That and much more in today's Top Stories next.
This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live, and time is ticking on your chance to win the biggest prize of the year in our current Great British giveaway, as there's just 2 weeks left to get your entry in.
Now, you could drive away with a brand new motorhome and 30 grand in tax-free cash. But if you want to be in it, here are the details.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest greatest giveaway, and a prize worth over £104,000 really could be yours. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons, comfortably sleeps your family of 4, and comes fully kitted out with bicycle rack and side awning. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry to become a winner, and that winner really could be you. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, to look through the top stories of today, we're delighted to be joined by journalist at the Daily Mail, Letters Bromovsky, and former Labour advisor, Scarlett Maguire. Now, Scarlett, I'm going to start with you. And there is a big interview with Dominic Cummings. We always seem to be getting big interviews with Dominic Cummings. He says that Kemi is going to be gone. He says that a comeback Boris Johnson is impossible. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, basically, he's not nice about anybody. I mean, he says that Keir Starmer's rubbish, will probably be gone by next year. Kemi, what on earth was she ever doing getting there? Why on earth did they have Liz Truss? There's something very wrong with the Tory party. Boris cannot ever go back because of what is called the Boris wave, all the immigrants that he allowed in that are now going to settle here. I mean, he leaves. The only person he's reasonably nice about is Nigel Farage, saying that he's got to get a team around him. I mean, all of this is fine, but frankly, what has Dominic Cummings ever done? So he got get Brexit done, great thing. We won the election.
Over the biggest democratic mandate in British political history. That's a pretty significant achievement.
Okay, so he's a great campaigner. He's a great campaigner. There's no question. He's a great campaigner. As somebody who knows how to run anything, I mean, under him and Boris, number 10 was a disaster area.
And of course, there are different recollections on who is to blame for the disaster in number 10. One thing Dominic Cummings always says that he is good at is building teams. And a big problem for Sir Keir Starmer, who he's describing, Letters, as a non-playable character, an NPCPM, who's just sort of passive and watches the world sort of operate around him. He doesn't really have a great team. That's a concern that many are hearing.
What Keir Starmer? In this instance, well, look, it's no surprise that Dominic Cummings is going to go after Keir Starmer in here. He's clearly trying to make a splash by calling him an NPC PM. It's quite, Gen Z of him. Maybe he's trying to appeal to a broader audience. Keir Starmer's undoubtedly made many a mistake since they've come into power, from back in when he was Clothesgate that was going on to more recently, with Peter Mandelson and him having to be sacked because of his links with Jeffrey Epstein. But I think here that Cummings, in the things that he says here about Kemi not being a disaster, it's not so much things that are new to us. There have been rumours circulating that perhaps Kemi Badenoch can't actually retain this position that she's in at the moment. They had the Conservative Party conference recently where she had to, again, it was essentially posted as her last time to make a big splash. And really all she did then was move the Conservative policies closer towards reform policies. And the fact that the only person he's been nice to here is Nigel Farage isn't that surprising either, because it was only a few months ago that those two were pictured having a nice cosy lunch together. So perhaps what we're going to be seeing is Dominic Cummings joining the Reform Party.
The story in the Times is interesting too. Extra time is not healthy for children with disorders. I mean, I've kind of always thought this. What's the point in giving someone with ADHD extra time in exams? At some point, they're going to have to get a job. They're not going to be given extra time in their job. Shouldn't the root cause of their problems be addressed, and then they should do the exam like everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what's really important for people with ADHD and mild autism and an awful lot is that you're given strategies to deal with it. It's like dyslexia. I mean, a young woman I know, who did get get a very good, a 2-1 degree. Discovered afterwards that she'd got dyslexia, and actually she'd worked out the strategies. So what you want is actually you want help to make you deal with the world, to help with dealing with the world, rather than let us give you a leg up and then it's not going to go. But the problem is that they are real things, and people do need to be able to work out how to deal with them.
The author behind this warning, Dr. Suzanne O'Sullivan, she's previously made warnings about how there's so much quackery around when it comes to medical information, and diagnoses are on the rise as that is a wider issue taking place.
Yeah, this article as well says that 95% of people who ask for extra time actually get it. And so that is opening up another question around this as to whether there are too many people and whether it does need to be scrutinised more. But I do think that, taking it away from everyone just because there are a few people who might be abusing the system is the wrong way to go about it. I also think, though, that there is nothing really in life that is similar to school and exams. Although your teachers might try and tell you that this is real life, there is nothing like an exam having to sit through 3 hours of maths or science, biology or whatever it is. So I'm not sure that we really should be giving this too much weight at the moment.
Well, let's do that then. Let's take the weight away from that. And I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball at both of you, because it's not in the papers today, so it's only on GBNews. But we were with Tony Maguire earlier in Glasgow on the south side, where there was these photos of flags, joint Palestinian, joint Scottish saltires.
Right.
Scarlett, what do you make of seeing that? This raising the colours movement. Do you think it's right for the Scottish flag to have that mixture with it?
I think you do what you want. I think that if that's what people want to do, that if nationalist Scots want to support Palestine, that's fine. I think that we're getting to a stage of flags being quite dangerous.
Flags being quite dangerous.
No, as they are in Northern Ireland, right? In Northern Ireland, there are rules that are broken every day of the week about putting up flags.
But is the problem then not necessarily the flags, but rather the sectarianism underneath them? And that perhaps England's becoming much more, and Great Britain more generally, is becoming a bit more of a sectarian society.
Yeah, I think there is a problem when a flag is put up not to unite people but to divide people. If you look at the St George's flag during a World Cup, right, there is no question that what they're doing is they're saying we're all on one side, and it doesn't matter, what colour we are, what anything. And other times the St George's flag is put up to divide. And I think that we want to use flags to unite.
I suppose, Letters, the thing is, it's easy to say, well, if people want it, then it's fine to have a mash-up of the Palestinian flag and the saltire. I suppose the question is, does everyone living in that community want it, or is it just a couple of people at the council who've made that decision? And I suppose the same could be argued for flags everywhere.
Well, exactly. The same could be argued for flags everywhere, and it is at the moment. Both sides are saying, I don't want these flags in my community, I don't want those flags in my community. If that flag is up at the moment, I think, all flags should be allowed up at the moment. It shouldn't be a question of mine can stay up, but yours can go down. And I agree. I don't think we should villainise flags at the moment. Flags are not the issue here. The issue is what's going on underneath that, and the extremism or the divisions that are going on. That's where the issue lies. It's not the flag.
Well, there are some people out there who just love heraldry and are enjoying that this debate is going on regardless. Right, well, Letters and Scarlett, thank you very much. And there's lots more to come on the show today. But first, let's go and get your news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you. Our headlines. Prince Andrew has relinquished all his royal titles, including the Duke of York, as a result of a series of scandals over his friendship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, and also his links to China. It comes days before the publication of a posthumous memoir by Virginia Giuffre, Epstein's most publicised victim. Donald Trump's played down suggestions he will supply Ukraine with long-range US missiles to strike Russia after meeting Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House. The US president instead spoke about brokering a peace deal with Vladimir Putin, with a new summit scheduled to take place in Hungary. The Home Office said it expects to hold a meeting next week to address a ban on Israeli football fans attending a game at Aston Villa. Birmingham council officials ban Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters over safety concerns after classifying the match as high risk. They cited violence that occurred during a game between Maccabi and Ajax in Amsterdam last November. Israel has confirmed the latest remains handed over to Hamas, over by Hamas to the Red Cross on Friday, are those of the 75-year-old Eliyahu Margalit. He is the 10th dead hostage to be returned from Gaza. The remains of 18 people have yet to be repatriated. And China's threatened the UK with consequences over further delays to its proposed mega embassy in London. A decision's been pushed back until December, further complicating diplomatic relations following the alleged Chinese spying case. You're up to date on the headlines. A full bulletin coming up for you at 12 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Aaron. Well, coming up next on Saturday Morning Live, we're heading to Glasgow for a very curious flag story because the saltire has been mixed with the Palestinian flag.
And we'll also be talking about that meeting between Zelensky and Donald Trump. Is Donald Trump on the brink of ending another war? Zelensky says he hopes so, but Donald Trump isn't hopeful about the prospect of a face-to-face meeting between Zelensky and Putin. More on that.
All that coming up after the break here on Saturday Morning Live.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office, where we've got a change of type. Some brightness today, but otherwise low pressure is arriving to bring a wet and windy day on Sunday. So this area of high pressure that's stuck around through much of the week and last week will soon be replaced by low pressure out to the west. But through the rest of this morning and more so this afternoon, there will be a lot of cloud around, but that's generally a little bit higher than recent days. So hopefully seeing some brightness. For most of us, it's largely dry, but cloud and rain will approach from the west, affecting Northern Ireland and the far southwest of Devon and Cornwall later on. Otherwise, temperatures around average for the time of year. Any new brightness feeling pleasant, especially across parts of Scotland. So as we end Saturday evening then, there will be some early evening sunshine for the far north of Scotland, still holding on to a few showers across Shetland, but otherwise a damp end to the day across Northern Ireland with some stronger winds coming through as well. Outbreaks of rain here, a damp end across parts of Western Wales and the far southwest of England, but holding on to a lot of cloud, especially to the south and east. So as we go through this evening and overnight, bands of rain will continue to push in from the west. There is a Met Office warning in force for rain across the southeast of Scotland, so especially over the Mourne Mountains. That's where rainfall totals will start building, but even across far south of Devon and Cornwall. Otherwise, with a lot of cloud around, a brisker wind as well, it's going to be mild out there. Temperatures up to around 10 or 11 to start Sunday morning. So as we start Sunday morning then, again, further spells of heavy rain continuing across Northern Ireland into much of England. So by lunchtime, most of us will see an unsettled end to the weekend, but some brightness coming into Devon and Cornwall and Northern Ireland, but brisker winds, temperatures around 15 to 16 degrees.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Donald Trump met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky yesterday following a call between the US President and Vladimir Putin.
Now, Mr. Trump said he feared that the US giving long-range Tomahawk missiles could represent a major escalation in the conflict, and said that the US also needs them for its own defences.
I think he wants to make a deal, that's all. I can't tell you what's bringing him. Sure, that's the threat of that is good, but the threat of that is always there. They're an amazing weapon. They're a very powerful weapon, but they're a very dangerous weapon, and it could mean big, escalation. It could mean a lot of bad things can happen. Tomahawks are a big deal.
Well, joining us now is the senior lecturer in US politics at Queen Mary University, Dr. Richard Johnson. Now, I'm going to start with a simple one. Is the end of the war imminent?
Imminent is probably going a bit far, but I think it's probably closer in sight than it's been since the start of the war. There are a few things that have happened here. One is that the situation on the ground has not gone on in Putin's favour. So Putin launched an escalation over the summer and basically has made no progress at all. The Russian economy has been in a perennially weak state, but Ukrainian drone strikes have taken out some of its energy-producing facilities. And I think there's also now, we might call it the Nobel Prize effect or the Gaza deal effect, where Trump, I think, is now more emotionally invested in striking a deal. And so I think there's a sort of constellation of forces here that make it feel closer than it's been since the start.
But Dr. Johnson, it does seem to me that Zelensky and Trump, I mean, they're still not gelling as diplomatic partners. There was, of course, that infamous row with J.D. Vance earlier when that first visit to Washington, which was captured by the world's cameras, and it really stunned the world when that happened. But it almost seems strange that they still send him to do this job, because he doesn't strike me as the most compelling diplomatic force in Washington. Is it possible that Ukraine could send someone else for this role?
I think things have improved massively since February. And if you think of what happened yesterday, Zelensky has learned how to deal with Trump, both in terms of how to
dress, I think, one thing.
How to dress. He was wearing a jacket.
Trump said he looked beautiful.
And Trump complimented him on that. So he's learned that. He's learned about the sort of flattery that needs to go on. He mentioned that he'd be quite happy to nominate Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize and things like that. But he's also learned that Trump loves a deal. And so rather than go with the begging bowl, or rather than go with the tough guy talk, he goes in and says, actually, and this is one of the great successes of Ukraine, we have massively ramped up our production of drones, and our drone weaponry now is unmatched. Let me offer you drones in exchange for military support and aid. And that's the sort of thing that Trump likes to hear.
Well, Donald Trump has said multiple times that this war would never have happened had he been president when it started. Do you think there's any truth in that?
It's impossible to prove the counterfactual, but if we go back to that time, I mean, Trump says that he had conversations with Putin where he used the N-word, nuclear. And, who knows if he did say that. But I think that one of Trump's approaches, particularly in his first term as president, was this kind of radical uncertainty about what he would do. Some people have called it the madman theory of international relations, where you don't take anything off the table. And so the consequences of crossing a line could be much more disproportionate than would normally be the case within normal international relations.
We've got this potential upcoming meeting between Putin and Trump. Here they are. That was their meeting in Alaska, but there's going to be another meeting in Budapest, it seems. One of the more curious elements of that is that Putin will have to fly through European airspace to get there. He'd go through the Black Sea, but he'll have to go through either Romania or Bulgaria. He could go via then Serbia, a close ally of Mr. Putin, one of the only countries, I think the only country in Europe that has sort of direct flights to Moscow that goes through European airspace. That's going to be quite a tricky test as well.
Yeah, and I think the logistics of that will have to be worked out, and I'm sure that they will be worked out in one way or another.
Could we see Putin being flanked by NATO fighter jets as he comes into European airspace as a bit of a show of strength?
Well, it is possible that they may have to escort him in. I think the point you raise is it is curious to do it in the heart of Europe. If you think about some of the summits that happened during the Cold War, for example, you would choose a place like Iceland, for example. There's sort of you could kind of fly over, but I think that'll be worked out. But what I think we're seeing between the change from Alaska to Budapest is we're seeing Trump move from carrot to stick with Putin. You can tell in Trump's tone that he's fed up with Putin. He feels that he's been played by Putin, and he feels that Putin, based on what I said earlier about not making any real progress over the summer, is in a weaker state.
I'm interested in what you say about that in Trump's first term and the radical uncertainty about what he would do next. It feels as though Trump has perhaps lost a little bit of that, because actually over his first term as president, there were a lot of mad threats, but he didn't really follow through on any of them. Is Putin a bit aware of that? He has played Trump a bit, hasn't he? And you could argue that by asking for another meeting, he's just buying a bit more time. Do you think Trump still has that kind of strongman approach to diplomacy that he had in his first term, or is that weakened a bit?
Well, that is the fear, I think, from the sort of Western perspective on this, is this going to just be another play for time, like the Alaska summit ultimately was? The Alaska summit was, in effect, a concession to Russia, hoping that by bringing Putin into kind of acceptable society by meeting the President of the United States, that they would get something back. They've seen that that's not the case. So this time, I think Trump is going to go to him. And basically, I think this issue with the Tomahawk missiles, Trump has not taken it off the table. Some of the reporting has, I think, gone too far on that. And he's basically, but they take months to come online. And he's saying, I think he will say to Putin, look, if you don't strike a deal now, we're going to strike you, and we're going to strike your energy production facilities, and we're going to literally take out what keeps the lights on in Russia.
And just very quickly, in terms of this proposed deal that Zelensky's building with regards to drones and Tomahawks, do you think some of the Ukrainian mineral wealth and other assets they have on the table could be introduced as part of that process?
That was discussed at the start of the year, when there was some thought, I think Trump had, that he would come in and he'd strike a deal within a matter of days or weeks coming into the White House. I haven't heard it being taken off the table. I think that there could be some kind of arrangement reached on that, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Richard Johnson. It'll be great to have you back on another show when we know more about how that meeting is going to go. But still to come, we'll be joined by Tony Maguire for the latest on the Raise the Colours operation on Scotland's streets.
First, if you're in search of some holiday sun, Glasgow looks a bit overcast. Here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The best place to be across the Mediterranean at the moment is Italy. A lot of fine weather following some wet conditions earlier in the week. That wet weather now moving into Greece, and another spell of rain on the way for parts of Portugal, northwest Spain as well. A damp spell here, but with southwesterly winds, temperatures actually above average. And then this gap in systems through the central part of the Mediterranean. Plenty of sunshine through Italy. Rain clouds clearing into Greece. Very wet indeed for Athens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
TfL are actually encouraging people to take their cats on the tube. Presumably, they want more people to travel on the tube, and they're saying let them relax on the floor during the trip. Bring some toys with them and so on. It does say you have to have them in a harness or on a leash, so they're not being completely irresponsible, if you like. And we've now got a response from the Cats Protection charity, who say it was shocking and warned that such travelling conditions would be hugely stressful for the animals.
Oh, for goodness sake, what is wrong with them? How are people supposed to get anywhere if you've got a pet, for example, that you're transporting? You have to have a car. Do you know what? My dog loves public transport so much that if a bus stops when I'm chatting to somebody and the door's open, on a couple of occasions he's just popped himself on a lead, and I have to, you know, luckily, thank goodness we still have drivers in vehicles, you know, they're not driverless vehicles, because, you know, they spot this dog and go, excuse me, mate, you haven't got a bus pass.
There's a famous dog from the past from Lewis who used to nip on a train go around the southern region on a train and get back to Lewis in the evening, just on his own.
Yeah, because they're sociable creatures, aren't they? Lots of them like it. I think the issue with the TfL stuff is the fact they're showing these rucksacks, because they're a bit controversial, aren't they? Or the front sacks they've got there, where the cats are kind of inside.
Catastrophe.
Very good, Norman. I think that's what people take issue with. Although one of my friends has one of these cat rucksacks, and the cat absolutely loves it, always hopping in there.
You see, I think that's the...
I think it depends on the cat.
It does depend.
What about other animals? You take snakes on, for example.
No, thank you.
Snakes on a train. Love it. New film.
I think so.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. And Scottish towns have joined in with the Raising the Colours movement, raising saltires on streets and main roads around the country. To counter that, Victoria Road in the south side of Glasgow has adapted a half Palestine, half saltire on all the street lamps.
Well, let's go and join our Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire, who's live in Glasgow for us. Tony, what's been going on with these flags? A lot of our viewers are saying there's nothing in Scotland that justifies the flag joining up with the Palestinian one, for example.
Yes, I mean, well, Scotland really got on the back of the Raise the Colours movement shortly after England did. Now, our roundabouts aren't blue, so it wasn't quite as easy as painting a cross over the top of it. However, all around the city of Glasgow, and in fact all around Scotland, really, in pockets of the country, we saw the saltires being raised, you know, as a sign of national unity and pride. However, at the start of October, we saw these half Palestine, half Scotland flags being raised, particularly here along Victoria Road on the south side of Glasgow, but also around the University of Glasgow. Flags of freedom raised by Unity for Resistance group. But speaking to people in Glasgow over the last couple of days, it's made clear that not everybody has got on board with this.
I mean, we really don't know what's happening to the city of Glasgow. As far as I'm telling you, it's beginning to be a shambles of a place.
I think it's opinion of everybody, isn't it? One people like it, other folk don't. Personally, we're in Scotland.
So it should be
the Scottish flag. I just prefer the Scotland flag. I don't like any other flags joined up with Scotland.
The problem's over there, it's no here, so I reckon we should keep it that way. We don't want it. I mean, it's a terrible thing, and I hate.
So in addition to obviously the kind of that show of national unity up in Scotland, there was also that added aspect of wanting to reclaim the saltire from the pro-independence movement for the last 20 years. We've seen those pro-independence marches flying thousands of those flags, but of course that didn't cause quite the stir that the saltires around Scotland have done over the last couple of months. But nevertheless, certainly this has been a bit of a sore point. All these claims that the saltires raised are symbology of the far right, but then that has then led the other side now response to these flags flying along Victoria Road. Is it really any better, or is it still antagonistic to join up the Palestine flag with the saltire? And even maybe more than that, is it disrespectful to our own country national flag for people who don't agree with that combination of flags flying behind me? So, you know, it's interesting because after obviously that hard fought peace has been won between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, it seems that this kind of proxy flag war is still very much ongoing.
Okay, Tony Maguire, live in Glasgow. Thank you very much for bringing us that report, and also thank you for bringing us those voices, in particular those two old lads the two old boys who seemed a little bit cheesed off with what's going on. And we can actually bring in a your say from Susan. She says, "I live in Scotland and do not understand the 50-50 Saltaire Palestinian flag. What's the purpose? We do not live in Palestine. It should be proud of our Scottish and British roots, but no, there are those of you who are not," she says. When you live in a country that is divided, doing this only divides people further. She's got a point, hasn't she?
I think she's got a point, and there are quite a lot of people writing, and this is a story which has really got you viewers going, really, really interested in this. And is it a bit alarming when you see the flag of a totally different nation, particularly in such a tricky, controversial flag being brought into the mix here?
I've always found those joint pins that sometimes you see ambassadors wearing a little bit odd, you know, and they wear like a moulding of the two flags.
And MPs have all their lapels just absolutely covered in badges, because you've got to have every single one to look as though you're supporting every group. It's a tricky one.
They certainly display their allegiances as much as possible. It's like seeing someone's CV on their chest with some of these MPs. It's like, are you a scout or a member of Parliament? You know, they've got all these badges going on.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking of which, we should have our GB News badges on today.
I've let the side down for not wearing mine. Although Martin Dorman will hate me for saying this, but earlier this week he was live for about half an hour with his GB News badge upside down.
They spin round.
They do spin. Unfortunately, it happened to Martin so far. But thank you so much, Tony, of course. Thank you for all of you at home for joining us on Saturday Morning Live today, particularly for all of your says and all the stories we were covering today.
But don't go anywhere, as Dawn Neeson is up next with The Weekend. Dawn, what's coming up on the show?
Thank you very much, you two. Cracking show as always. Yet don't you dare go anywhere. We've got an amazing show for you, including, with delicious irony, people, it's taking the new weekend in football. We'll be asking, is that really worthwhile considering everything that's gone on in Aston Villa? And we're also obviously covering the Royal story, and we've got some great exclusives coming up on that. You don't know this, you will do if you stay tuned. See you very soon after the weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office, where we've got a change of type. Some brightness today, but otherwise low pressure is arriving to bring a wet and windy day on Sunday. So this area of high pressure that's stuck around through much of the week and last week will soon be replaced by low pressure out to the west. But through the rest of this morning and more so this afternoon, there will be a lot of cloud around, but that's generally a little bit higher than recent days. So hopefully seeing some brightness. For most of us, it's largely dry, but cloud and rain will approach from the west, affecting Northern Ireland and the far southwest of Devon and Cornwall later on. Otherwise, temperatures around average for the time of year. Any new brightness feeling pleasant, especially across parts of Scotland. So as we end Saturday evening then, there will be some early evening sunshine for the far north of Scotland, still holding on to a few showers across Shetland, but otherwise a damp end to the day across Northern Ireland with some stronger winds coming through as well. Outbreaks of rain here, a damp end across parts of Western Wales and the far southwest of England, but holding on to a lot of cloud, especially to the south and east. So as we go through this evening and overnight, bands of rain will continue to push in from the west. There is a Met Office warning in force for rain across the southeast of Scotland, so especially over the Mourne Mountains. That's where rainfall totals will start building, but even across far south of Devon and Cornwall. Otherwise, with a lot of cloud around, a brisker wind as well, it's going to be mild out there. Temperatures up to around 10 or 11 to start Sunday morning. So as we start Sunday morning then, again, further spells of heavy rain continuing across Northern Ireland into much of England. So by lunchtime, most of us will see an unsettled end to the weekend, but some brightness coming into Devon and Cornwall and Northern Ireland, but brisker winds, temperatures around 15 to 16 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry to become a winner. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not